Hello, and welcome to the 30th video in the PHP e-commerce series. My name is Curtis, and this is Free Skills. Well, to be honest with you, I didn't think this was going to take this many videos, but I think it'll take under 40 or right at 40 videos. And that's not really that bad, because if you think about it, for most of us, that's less than a week worth of work for one person to build this online store. And plus, it would be a lot quicker if you were just banging this out. But we're going slow and kind of going through each step by step and teaching, so it's taking a little longer than it would take to build this if you already were proficient in the languages and things like that. So we are ready to roll. In this video, what we're going to do is create a two-step checkout process. So if we look at what we have right now, we have an empty shopping cart. So let's just add something to that. Let's see. So let's just add a shirt or something here to the shopping cart. And now that we have something in our shopping cart, we have this checkout, and this just opens this modal, and we have shipping address put right here. What we're going to do in this video is do our two-step form. So we're going to only show the shipping address, then we'll hit next, and then that will take us to the card details. But first I want to make this modal a little bit bigger. So what I'm going to do here is, this is the modal, and right here in this div right here with the modal dialog, we're going to go ahead and do modal-lg, which will make it large. Alright. So now if I refresh the page and we check out, now we have this larger modal. Gives us a little more room to work here. Alright, so what we need to do is just get started. So down here in the modal body where these three dots are, we're just going to delete that. And we're going to start with our form elements, our form tags here. Okay. And we're going to give this form an action equal to thankyou.php. We haven't created that file yet, but we will. And we'll do method of post, and then we're going to do an ID equal to payment dash form. Okay. The next thing that we want to do is start putting our, well, it's going to be two steps. So let's create two different divs. In the first div, I'm going to give it an ID equal to step 1, and I'm going to give it that's all we'll do for now. And then we're going to do another div right below that, and we'll give it an ID equal to step 2. Alright. Then what we want to do is we're going to give this some inline styles, and usually I'm not a big fan of inline styles. You could put this in the CSS file if you wish. I'm just going to do it inline for the purposes of the video. So I'm just going to say style equal, and then what we're going to do is display none. Okay, because we don't want to show this div at all. And then this one, what we're going to do is give it a style, and we'll do display block. Okay, and what that's going to do is it's going to make this first div display, and the second one will not. And then we'll use our JavaScript function to reverse these to where this one's shown and this one is not. So in the first div, I'm going to go ahead and make a div with a class equal to form group, and then I'm also going to give it column medium 6 because I want to put two side-by-side form elements for each one. We'll go ahead and close this div, and we'll give ourselves room here, and we'll do a label. We'll say for full name. Okay, and we're going to say full name, and then it gets an input of class equal form control and ID equal full name, and then we'll give it a name equal to full name. Okay. We also need to give it type of text. Alright. So now that I have that one element, let's just go ahead and let's just go ahead and take a look at that before I move on. We'll refresh, and then we have full name here. The other thing we need to do, if you notice, this is starting to get down into our footer, and just from experience, what that is from is right up here in our modal body. We need to, since we're going to be using the grid system, we need to put all of this inside of a div with a class equal to row. Okay, so we'll go down to underneath our, let's see, form. Yep, right after our form right here, we're going to close that div. Alright, and we will indent our form. Alright, so now when I take a look at that, it should fix that. Yep, so now we have our first form element, and then it's not in our footer anymore. Okay, so now what we can do is just copy this entire div of our element, and we're just going to copy and paste that a few times. So we'll do one for the email, street, street 2, city, state, and we'll do zip code, country. Yep, that's all the elements that we're going to have in our first part of the form. So right here on the second one, we're going to change this to email. We'll change this email. We'll change this to email. We'll change our type to email as well. Alright, the next one is going to be street address, and we'll change all of these to just simply street. Alright, and then we're going to do street address 2. We'll do change all of these to street 2. Alright, and next we're going to do city. Okay, and then we're going to do state. Alright, and then we'll do zip code. Alright, and the last one we're going to do is country. So make all of these country. Save that. We'll take a look, make sure we don't have anything weird. Alright, that looks pretty good. Let's see. So the next thing that I want to do is change this button here to be next. So let's go down to the button, and this is that button here. And what I want to do here is just put next, and we'll do a couple of those little deals. And then I think what I want to do as well is we're going to give this an onClick event, and what we want to do is give that an onClick event, and we're going to say check underscore address, which is a function we have not yet created. Alright, so let's take a look at that. Alright, so we got the next there. Now at the top of the form, let's add a place to echo out or to display our errors. So right underneath the form element, I want to add a span right here, and we're going to give this span a class equal to bg danger and an ID equal to payment errors, and we'll just make that empty, and we will plug any errors right into that. So we need to create this check address function right here. So we don't want that to be on every page, so we're not going to put that in the footer this time. We're just going to put that down here. We're going to open up some script tags. We'll close our script tags. Alright, and we will create a function, and that function is called check underscore address. Okay, now what we need to grab here is we need to go ahead and make a variable, and we'll call that data. We'll make that equal to an object, and what we're going to do is we're going to say full underscore name, and then grab it. This is get element by ID for in JQuery. You just do this. All right. This would be the same as document get element by ID, and then we're going to say dot val. Okay, and I got a misplaced single quote here. It needs to be right there. Alright, and then we'll do a comma, and we're going to say no, actually let's clean this up a little bit, just to make it look nicer. We're going to say email, so JQuery. We could do a loop to do this, but just so you guys can kind of see exactly what's going on, I like to do this, you know, just for demonstration purposes. We'll just do this all written out like this, just to make it a little easier to read as you're starting. But you'd probably want to do something in the future, you know, make your code a little cleaner by putting this all in a loop. But I don't think it's necessary to do for this video. Okay. Well, I'm getting really excited because we're almost to the point of actually charging money, which is what we've all been waiting for. So we're just gonna finish up a few little last minute things like this form, and we're gonna be good to go. A little repetitiveness here. By the way, I know somebody's probably going to say it in the comments, but one way that you can write, you don't have to write JQuery out like this. You could actually just do a $, and that would work just fine in most cases. The problem with that is I've run into, if you ever include any other libraries and things like that, you might get some complications between JQuery. So I've gotten in the habit of just writing out JQuery there, and that seems to fix any kind of clashing there that might happen. But for a small project, and if you're controlling all the code, you're definitely probably okay to just use the $sign there. And what I did notice is I haven't called the value function or method on any of these, so let's just do .val. Okay, and we don't have to put a comma at the end of that, but I'm going to. That's personal preference, just because if I come back later and add another field, I don't want to forget that comma. Alright, so now that we have our data attribute, I'm just going to make an Ajax call. So we're going to go ahead and say JQuery.Ajax, and the Ajax is we pass it an object as well. The first is URL. We haven't created this yet, but it's going to be your root folder, and then admin parsers, and then we'll put a check address.php in there. Alright, the next thing that we're going to need is our method, and we'll say post, and we need our data. Say data, and by the way, just realize these are not supposed to be strings. Okay, there we go. So after data, we got success, and that's going to be an anonymous function. And if you're wondering what anonymous, I say that a lot, anonymous function, it just means that it's a function that's being run immediately, and it doesn't have a function name. See, like this function here is called check address, but when we're running these functions here, they're not ever going to be called again except for write in line, and so we don't need to name them, so they're called an anonymous function. So that's, in case I haven't explained that or you don't know what that is. Okay, and maybe I'm the only one that was programming for a little while before I knew what that meant. Alright, so for error, we're just going to alert something went wrong. Alright. On success, we're going to pass in our data, which, by the way, this isn't the same data that we're sending out. When you're doing a success, this data is what's coming back from your file, your parser file that you're posting to. So I just want to clear up a little bit of confusion there. This is not the same data as this. It's what's coming back from the parser file. And I just said that twice in a row, so I must be tired. Alright, so here's the deal. This is what I want to do is just go ahead and create that parser file, and we'll finish up this function, this check address function, as we do the parser file. The parser file is not too bad, but I'm just going to go ahead and add it here, and we'll say new file in that parsers, and I'm just going to call that check underscore address .php. Okay, so here's that file, and we'll just open up PHP, and we'll go down a few lines and we'll close it. Alright, so what we need to do first is require once, and we're going to require our init.php. So to get that, we're going to grab from our server document underscore root. Okay, and we'll concatenate onto that our root directory /core/init.php. Alright, very similar to other files. So what we'll grab now is we're going to grab all of our values that are being posted. So I'm going to say name, and we'll sanitize this. sanitize $_post, and that is full name, and we'll just keep going with this. And actually we can just copy and paste this to okay. So here kind of messed up there. Let's see. Alright. So what I want to do here is I'm going to whoops. We're going to do email, and we'll do street. We'll do street 2, and we'll do city, we'll do state. I know some of this repetitious stuff is very boring, but hey, that's just the nature of the game. Sometimes when you're programming, sometimes it's boring, but it's very rewarding, and you know, the faster you get and find little shortcuts and things like that, it definitely gets better. Alright, so the next thing that I want to do is set up our errors, and that is going to be equal to an empty array, and then I'm going to set up a required, and we're going to make that an array as well. And what I want to do there is we're going to do an associative array rather, because what I want to do is we'll put in the fields. Let's see. Yeah, we'll put in the field names. So first one is going to be the field name, and then that's the key, and the value is going to be the display name on the form. Okay, so the key, again, while I'm typing this, the key is the name of the form input, and the value will be the display. That way we can display these. Okay, so we'll just keep going here. Street address, street 2, and that's not going to be required, so we don't need street 2. The other required one will be city, state, and state. I realize I got a capital S there, and that needs to be lowercase, just because that's the way I named it. And then we're going to do zip code, and we'll say zip code. And then the last one is going to be country. So country. All right, and we can kind of clean these up too, if you want to look at it a little nicer. All right. So there's that. That's our required fields, and so now we can say check if all required fields are filled out. That's just a comment. Wow. Alright, so to do that, we'll just do a for each loop, and we're going to say for each required as field, and you know what, we're just going to say FD for field and display. Alright, so for each one of those we're going to do a check, and we're going to say if empty, so if empty $_post, and then we're going to pass in the field there, so the F or the key will get passed in right there. So if that's empty, okay, let's see, or this might be a little redundant, but if that is equal to a blank string, if any of that's true, then we're going to add to our errors array. So errors equals, and then what we're going to say is D, and then we'll concatenate on a space is required. Okay, so for each one of these that are empty, the errors will be added to, and it'll say D, which is this display name, is required. Okay, so that'll check for empty. So then what we want to do is, let's just skip down a little bit, and let's say if not empty errors, so then we want to echo, and then we'll pass this through our display errors function, and we'll pass it in errors. Okay, and then we'll say else we want to echo passed. So what we're going to do is send back to our Ajax call either our display unordered list that's being returned from our display errors if there are errors present, or we're just going to echo back passed. Alright, so now what we need to do is do something with what's being echoed back. So let's go back to our cart.php, and inside of our success function we'll do a check. And the first one we're going to do, we're going to say if, we'll say if, so if data is not equal passed, in other words if there are errors, then what do we want to do? Well, we're going to grab an element by its ID, so we'll say, and that was payment errors, remember that span that we set up there, and what we'll do is attach HTML method there, and we're going to pass it the data that's being passed back from the parser file. Right? So then what we can do is we can say if data equals passed, right? We'll just alert, for now we're just going to alert passed. Okay. Alright. So let's see how that works now. Let's refresh the page, and I'm going to check out, and what I'm going to do is hit next, and because I didn't fill any of these out, now we see our errors. Full name is required, email is required, street address is required, city is required, state, zip, and country. So that all looks really good. If I happen to fill one of these out, and I say okay, and hit next, well, that one's gone, but we still get all these other errors. So this is what we want to do. Okay. Man, I got to drink more water and less coffee because I am dehydrated. Alright, so let's continue on here. The other check that I want to do is I want to make sure we have a valid email address. So if we go back to our check address parser file, we're just going to, right underneath this check, but before our little if statement here, we'll say check if valid email address. And there are a lot more checks that we could do here, guys, but we'll just keep it short and sweet for the video so we can get on to the fun stuff, which is actually charging money. So we'll do a filter var, and that's a base, a standard PHP library function there, and it gets two parameters. The first is what we're checking, and the second is going to be our filter. So what I'm going to do is do filter validate email. Okay. So, and notice I did put this exclamation point there. So if not filter var email, filter validate email, then we're going to add to the errors array. So errors, and we'll say equal please enter a valid email. All right. That's it. That's our check address parser file. We're not going to need to do anything else there. I'm going to just refresh here, and let's go ahead and fill all of this out. And I'm just going to say Curtis, and I'm going to say @ but I'm not going to do anything else there because I want to check that. And I'm going to put an address, 123 Main Street, and then we'll say Washington, Missouri, and for the zip code 63090, and the country United States. Now there are libraries out there that you can get to have the state and city and country drop downs. We're just going to leave these as text for the purpose of this video. So if I hit next, please enter a valid email, so I can put curtis@freeskills.com. Hit next, and when I hit next, we got that passed alert to us. So we know that that has now passed validation. So what do we want to do with that? Well, we obviously don't want this alert. So what we want to do is go into the cart.php. So we're down here, and this is our passed. So if it passes, the first thing that I want to do is clear out my errors, if there are errors. So we're going to say JQuery payment errors, and then we can just use the HTML method, and we're just going to put a blank string there. So that will clear the errors out. Alright. So if I go back here and hit next, well, got to refresh, and I'm not going to fill all that back out, or maybe I will. Chrome makes it nice and easy for me. There's that free skills, hit next, and well, nothing happens. Well, let's do it this way. Okay, so now please enter a valid email, and I hit .com, hit next. Okay, so now that gets rid of the error, so we know that's correct, but we want to go to the next part of the form. And so let's go ahead and do that. Well, actually I'll take that back. Before we do that, let's fill out the next part of the form. So the next step 2 in the form is this div right here that we gave an ID of step 2, and it is at display none for now. So we're going to skip down a few lines, and we'll do div, and we're going to give this div a class equal form group, and we'll give it call medium, and I'll do 3. Okay. So then I'm going to do label for and we'll do name, and we're going to say name on card, and then we'll give it an input type is equal to text, and then we're going to say we're not going to give this a name. We'll just give it an ID for now, equal to name, and that, well, we'll also give it a class equal to form control. Alright, so that's all we're going to do. We're not going to give it a name. Again, I'm going to repeat that. All of these other elements were given names. When you are dealing with credit card information, if you put a name there and you post that form, it sends that information to your server. And if you send credit card information to your server, you're liable for the security for that credit card information. And so to be PCI compliant, you are going to need to not handle any of the credit card information on your servers. So do not put a name here so that this does not get posted in any way to your server. Okay? Alright. So then what I want to do here is I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste that. Let's see how many times I want. We're going to have 4 fields. So I guess for now I'll just go ahead and paste that 4 times. Okay? So the next thing that I want is the card number, and we'll just say for that we're gonna say, what do we want to call that? Let me look real quick. Yeah, just number. Alright, so we're gonna give that an ID of number. Again, we're not gonna have a name. We definitely don't want the card number being passed to our server. The next thing I want to do is we're going to do expire month. And for the expire month, we're just going to give that a column of medium 2. And what I want to do is, instead of this input, we want to have a select here. So go ahead and put in a select, and we'll do ID equals to expire exp month, and we'll do class equal to form control. Close our select. Now let's see. Inside of our select, we're going to do some options. The first option is just going to be with a blank value. Oops. Alright, and with the blank, we can just leave. We'll just leave that blank there, and then we're going to do a loop, and we're going to say for our loop, we're going to do a for loop. So we can just open up some PHP tags here, and we'll do for, and then we'll do a colon, close our PHP, we'll skip down a few lines, and open PHP again, and we'll say end for. Alright, and what we want to do is we want to say for I equals 1, semicolon. We're checking if I is less than 13, semicolon, and then we'll do I plus plus. So what that's going to do is going to set a variable of I equal to 1, and then it's going to check, it's going to loop every time that I is less than 13. So basically it's going to get up to 12. Alright, so what do we want to do? Well, we're going to echo out an option, and what we're going to do is put a value there, and the value will be I, and that needs to be echoed out. So I, okay, and then close that option tag, and then this will also echo I. Okay. The other thing that I want to do, we got that drop down. I do want to go ahead and copy this card number one more time, because I forgot an element here. So let's change that to 2 as well. And what we're going to do is this is going to be CVC, and we'll give it an ID of CVC, and we'll do CVC for the label, and that's it. Again, we don't have a name on any of the credit card details. Now we can't see this right now because we have those set, so let's just, while we're working on this, let's change this display to block, and let's go back up to the top and let's change the step 1 div display to none. Okay, save that, refresh it, open it up. Okay, so we have let's see, name card, card number, CVC, and then we have our expire month, and that's 1 through 12 for the numeric months. That's what we want. And then we're going to do the last element here is going to be expire year. So scroll back down here, and here's our last one here. We need to change that to 2 as well, and we'll change the label to expire year, and we'll do EXP year. Alright, and give that name of EXP, or the ID rather. We do not want a name of the expiration year. And actually that was dumb because we need to get rid of that input, and we need to make that a select, and we're going to give it an ID equal to EXP year, and we'll give it a class equal to form control, and then it's going to look really similar to our expire month. So then what we want to do is we are going to say give it a blank option with an empty value. Okay, and then we're going to open up some PHP tags here, and we'll do for actually we need to set the current year. So the first thing we'll do is create a variable equal, so that's going to be my year, and I'm going to set that equal to date, and then the format is just going to be a format will just be capital Y. Okay, and then that's it. And then I'm going to go down and open up PHP tags again, and I'm going to say for, and we'll do our colon, skip down 2 lines, open PHP, and do n4 semicolon this time. Alright, so what we're going to do here is I equals, this time I is going to equal the year. Okay? Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to do I equals 0 this time. And we're going to do I for as long as I is less than 11, which is going to give us 10 years of time. That should be enough. And we'll do I plus plus. Okay. So then what are we going to do? Well, we're going to echo out an option, and the value of the option will equal to we're going to echo out the year, okay, plus I. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close the option there, and we'll do the same thing right here. We'll echo out year plus, oops, year plus I. Okay, hope that makes sense. Oops. So what we're doing is looping, and the first time it's going to be plus 0. so the year will be this year plus 0, so it'll just be this year. The next one will be, this I will be 1, because when it gets into the loop it adds 1 to it. So then it's going to take the year plus 1 and then the year plus 2, and it's going to do that until this is, so it's going to go 10 years out. So if we did this right, it should be from 2015 right now to 2025. Let's go take a look at that, refresh the page. Okay, there's some goofiness going on here, but here's that, and then here's our years, so that looks correct. So we got 1 through 12 for the month, and we got 2015 through 2025 for the year. I think I need to, this needs to be EXP month. I don't have a closing label there, so it's all being wrapped in the labels. So let's see if that fixes our, yep, that fixes our style issues. Alright. Alright, so we just need to clean up a few things here. We don't want it to say next when it gets to this. We actually want to submit the form. So what I want to do is we're going to add 2 more buttons here. I'm just going to copy this one. Okay. And this one here, the first one, I want to I'm going to change the on-click to back address, which we haven't created yet, and we'll change the button to back. Actually, should have done that here. So we have the close and then next, and then we have back, which I'm going to put 2 back carrots there. And then the last one, we'll get rid of the on click here, and we'll change that to well, we'll just get rid of that, and then we'll change type to submit, and then we're going to say check out. Okay, so we got next and back address. Alright, so we're getting really close to being done. We are going to have to create a back address, but we need to finish up the check address function. So let's go back up and let's change this part, the step 2, back to display none, and let's change the display 1 back to display block. Okay. So let's scroll down here and go back to our check address, and inside, well, a couple more things. We need to give these some IDs here. So the next button, we're going to give this an ID equal to next button, and then we'll give the back one an ID equal to back button, and we'll give this guy an ID of we'll give him an ID of how about final, or how about just check out button. We'll just make it kind of long. It's only one ID. Alright, so in the beginning, the first part of this, we also want to give this a style, and we want to say display none, and we're also going to do the back button. We're going to give it a style equal to display none. Alright, so we shouldn't see those when I refresh. Should have the, yep, shipping address, and we have next, and we don't have those other 2 buttons. So if I hit next, boom, we got that. Good to go. Alright, so we're in pretty good shape now. But in this past right here, what we want to do after we clear the errors is we want to set the step 1 div. We want to set the CSS of that, so we can use CSS as a method, and we're going to say for the CSS we're going to say display none. Okay, and then the next thing that we want to do is we want to set the step 2 CSS to display block. Okay, and then we want to set the next button. We'll set that CSS to display none, and we'll set the back button to display, and this time we're going to do inline block, and we'll do one more, the JQuery checkout. Let's see. Let's say checkout button, and I know that I have that ID different, so we'll change that, and we'll set that to display inline. Whoops, this needs to be display inline block. Okay, and let's just go up here and change this to checkout button. Alright, so all of that's going to happen on pass. So let's just refresh the page now and try it out. Email. Okay. Hit next. Something's gone wrong here. So we probably have a syntax error. Let's just inspect this element here. And in the console, I'm going to make sure I have preserve log ticked. And I'm going to refresh the page now, and we're going to see what happened. Well, I am dumb, and I put all of this inside of the data does not equal to past, and this should all, except for the payment errors here, that all needs to go in the past section. Alright, I just wasn't paying attention when I typed that all there. Hopefully you caught that. If you didn't, well, I'm sorry, but you can just cut it and paste it. Alright. So I hit next now. Still doesn't work. Damn it. Aha. I do have a syntax error in my code. And it's because, well, we need double quotes here, and we don't need these semicolons, so I just wasn't paying attention here. So let's just do this. That, and any kind of semicolon we have there. Alright. And these are not supposed to be colons. They are actually supposed to be commas, because these are parameters. And wow, told you I was tired. So now, let's see if I get this right. Okay, now we're talking. So now we have the back button and the checkout, the close, and that's all good. I want to do one last thing. I want to change the shipping address there. So you might need to pause it to make all those changes that I did so you can see what I did here. But the other thing I want to do is in our up in our label, let's see where we're at here. Okay, so we have an ID where this says shipping address. We have an ID equal to checkout modal label. So I'm just going to copy that. We'll go back down to our past function here, and the last thing we're going to do is we're going to grab that element by its ID, and then we're going to set its HTML, and we will set that to enter your card details. Alright, so now if I refresh, check out, next. So now that says enter your card details, and we have this. So this two-step form process is working quite nicely. We do need to go ahead and handle this back button, and that's going to be pretty easy as well. So up here in our script tag, we'll just create a new function. We'll say, and that is just back address. So what we need to do with back address, well, I want to clear any errors. So we'll say JQuery payment errors. We could just copy this from below, but we'll set that HTML to a blank string, and then we'll copy all of this here up to the payment errors. We could have just copied all that, actually. Man. So we'll just paste that there. So the payment errors get set to nothing, and then we just need to kind of change what these are. So step 1, if you hit back, will go to block. Step 2 will go to none, and then the next button will get set to inline block, and then the back button will be set to none. The checkout button will be set to none, and the label will set that back to shipping address. Alright, so let's try that out. I'll refresh the page. We'll fill in our name. Alright, and I'll hit next, and then if I hit back, yep, it takes us back to our form. Everything's filled out here. If I hit next, so we just got this next and back, next and back. We aren't going to do any form validation here. We're going to handle that when we process the credit card information. But if we hit checkout now, we'll have a 404 error because we haven't created our thank you page. So let's just, in the root of our project here, we'll just do thank you.php, and that's camel case. And I'm going to just put thank you for now right there. So if I go back now and I hit checkout, okay, the reason that that's not submitting the form is because this submit button is outside of our form element. So to fix that, we just need to go to our cart.php, and we're going to grab this form closing tag here, and we're going to put that after our buttons, just there, and that'll be just fine. So let's see now if everything works correctly. Alright, so we submitted that, and now it says thank you. We're obviously going to do more with the thank you page later. But that's it. We have our two-step checkout process here, and we'll start working on our credit card processing in the next video. But I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, please comment, like, and subscribe, and share. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments or send me a message. Thank you, and have a great night.